Hello and welcome to this week's episode of GIANT's Healthy Innovators TV. I'm your host, I'm Barry Shrier. Every week we like to bring to you examples of leading entrepreneurs and innovators from around the world who share our vision, which is to improve the health and the well-being of people around the world by facilitating innovation and encouraging healthcare to adopt new innovations to improve healthcare outcomes at lower cost. So once again, my name is Barry Shrier. I'm from GIANT Health. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Vodafone Business, and our knowledge partner, McKinsey. And we'd also like to thank MediBioSense, who's a very interesting and innovative company that exhibited at the GIANT Health event last year. We've been working closely with Simon and his team recently, and we're very, very proud to have them as an important partner of ours. So today we're bringing Simon Beniston, the CEO of MediBioSense, to talk about his business, his career and innovations in healthcare, and some of the big subjects that relate to challenges in healthcare, challenges in society, and how we can address those. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of our listeners and viewers from around the world. We love supporting all of you, and if any of this is of interest, we encourage you please to like our YouTube channel and to subscribe. We'd also like to invite everyone to come to the GIANT Health event. This year, it's the 4th and 5th of December. In London, England, and we hope you can attend. So, Simon, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent. Very excited and looking forward to speaking with you. And you know, we're big fans of the work that you're doing, and very keen to do everything we can to amplify and support your important activities. So to begin with, if you don't mind, a lot of our viewers love to hear a little bit about the background and the human interest story, so to speak. So would you mind telling us, please, just a little bit about you very briefly and your personal background and career?
Yeah, sure. So I'll try and make this brief. But basically, I spent around about 30 years in corporate IT, okay, working for probably the largest, world's largest IT service company, DXC Technologies. And I had a career there, and you know, to bring that up to date, my last role was global head of mobile solutions, okay, mobile technologies.
Cool.
And I've done many jobs. In fact, during my corporate career, I was actually seen as an innovator and entrepreneur, even though I was in corporate. So around, I guess, about 12 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, but around 12 years ago, I was doing many things. But I went to the board and said, hey, look, these mobile phones and mobile applications, I think they're going to be really big in the world. And it's just ironic when you look back, it doesn't seem that long ago. And they said, nah, you know, mobile applications are just for kids and playing Snake, okay?
No way.
Yeah.
You're joking. I have heard stories like that on so many occasions, and I know hindsight is perfect, but I remember interviewing a globally renowned telephone industry expert at the dawn of the Apple iPhone version 1, and he said, this will never take off. It doesn't have buttons.
He said
the biggest market are young people, and they like to use their phone inside their pocket, pressing the buttons inside their pocket. Anyhow, the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my life.
Yeah. So I was like a global manager, had a high level role, and I went to the board and said, look, we need to get into this. And they said, nah. And I said, look, just let me make this happen. And they said, okay, we're not giving you any funding, but if you make the first $1 million, then we'll consider it. I said, yeah. So I created a very small team initially, and it just took off. So, get to the end of that, I had teams in India, in America, and the UK, for example.
Nice.
And we were responsible, my little vision and for mobile application. So we built some of the leading mobile applications, which are phase one. So we built DHL app. We got involved in Costa Coffee. We built the Emirates Airlines app. We built an app for NASA. So we built. We had like 4 or 5 apps which were #1 in the world. So I took it from nothing, and turned it into something. And my vision, you know, and it's changed. You know, it's gone on for further, but yeah, I created something out of nothing, which is quite cool.
Yeah, no, very, very encouraging.
Yeah. If I then look towards the end of my career, you know, I'd created all this technology and you know, this new way, and as one of the first people to see this vision, and then I started thinking, well, okay, how can technology help? You know, how can technology help in healthcare? How can technology make a difference?
Yes.
You know, and it's okay to order your coffee or book a plane seat. But I was really, you know, altruistically, I was thinking, well, this could really help in you know, making a difference.
Absolutely.
So I started looking at this, and we built a couple of apps. We had a #1 app in the UK called Pocket Health for the NHS, where you could log in and find, you know, symptom finder, find your nearest hospital, and so that went really well. And we launched that around the world. I think it was like 127 countries. But it's a free app, you know.
Okay.
To speed this up a little bit, I have this. I always say I'm not good at things, but if I had one strange skill, it was having a gut feeling about seeing you know, what could happen in the future. Yeah.
Sure.
And so I started seeing this, you know, the inklings of wearable technology.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so this was like 2013, 2014. You know, there's literally people were thinking about it, nothing on the market. And I said, do you know, this could change healthcare. So I started building that up. And at the same time, sort of mid-40s, I was going through a moment of, okay, what's this all about? I made probably the biggest decision in my career and said, do you know what? I'm going to give this all away, my 6-figure salary, and I'm going to create a healthcare company, a wearable technology, and make this happen. So it happened in 2014, 2015.
Was that the launch of MediBioSense?
Yeah. We incorporated in 2015, but I guess like 6 or 9 months beforehand.
What was your first product or service idea?
Yes, so my first product was something I brought over from my you know, from my career, was a wearable patch. Okay, American company were manufacturing this, but they had no solution. They had you know, they had a simple you could display it on a mobile phone, but there's no healthcare solution. It was just a bit of hardware.
Yeah.
So I said to them, look, you've got something really good here, but let me turn it into a global solution. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we had the partnership. They were the manufacturer. And MediBioSense, with my vision, turned it into a global healthcare solution.
Superb.
Yeah, and one of our first clients was the Scottish Ambulance and Red Cross.
Wow.
Okay.
Right. What did they do with it? How did they use it?
Yeah, so these guys were, you know, especially up in Scotland, you know, if somebody had an RTC, you know, up in the mountains, you know, trying to get all the equipment down to the patient to make sure they're okay. And we said, look, we have a little patch. You can stick this on, and you can, you know, it's literally 10 grams. Nice. That rolled out to we started doing with the Red Cross the international rugby matches.
Wow.
So 100,000 people, you can pretty much guarantee. Ironically, you know, there'd be like 4 heart attacks in the days, and you know, a lot of patients who probably drunk too much. Well, exactly. So that was our first ever deal. Actually.
Yeah. How extraordinary. Yeah. So tell us about the patch. What exactly is the patch? And I know that's just the hardware, and I'm guessing that the service proposition is the more important part of it. But
yeah, so this is the patch, and I'm here responsible and deliver this right now to over 40 countries around the world. Okay.
And are you, what's the word for it? You're not the designer or the manufacturer. Are you the, what's it called? The manufacturer's representative?
Yeah. How that looks now, we have responsibility for the whole world outside of the US. We do get involved in the US, but there's a bit of but typically we have a separate team specifically for the US, because the US is a very unique healthcare market, as you know. But MediBioSense are the name of the patch outside of the US, and we've delivered now to 40 countries. But this is a simple medical certified CE FDA class 2A patch. You stick it on your chest, just here, and we have patients. And the patch,
what's it measuring?
Yeah. So in the single patch, it measures ECG, heart rate, respiration rate, RR intervals, HRV, body temperature, steps, posture, fall detection. We can also capture X, Y, and Z dynamically. And this is all sent via Bluetooth to a remote dashboard. On the dashboard, we also now compute medically a real-time ECG arrhythmia. So if you have a AFib, we know instantly, which is a bit of a game changer, considering Holters, you have to wear for 2 weeks and find out 2 weeks later. We find out in a second. So what we do is we allow patients to wear the patch, and we can remotely monitor them. Okay. And this can be in hospital. Especially we did a lot of work for a lot of countries during COVID isolation. But we also see remote monitoring, keeping people out of hospital.
Exactly. Unbelievably important during the pandemic.
And the buzzword right now, Barry, is virtual wards, hospital at home. No beds in the world. If you can send a patient home, they recover quicker, happier, cheaper.
So I think our listeners would really love to hear more about that. So if we can take a step back, the concept of the virtual ward. Of course, you and I hear that phrase every day of the week because we're in the middle of it. For somebody who hasn't heard that phrase before, could you explain a little bit about that? Not only what it means, but why is this of interest to healthcare providers?
Yeah, sure. So, and this has really been driven, accelerated since the COVID pandemic. Okay. And quite simply, around the world, there is a major pressure on healthcare. Okay, in lots of different ways. One of the key pressures is hospital beds. We have a lot of patients who are in hospital who could actually be, be at home. And if you release that bed, then it could be used for somebody else. And there's a realization that actually technology can provide this for you, and in fact can provide it even more for you. So if you consider a patient is in a hospital bed, the doctors and nurses are very busy, and maybe you have your observations twice a day, your vital signs. What happens if you could release that bed and send somebody home and monitor them 24/7, and do 21,000, 30,000 observations a day?
Yes.
So there's some key benefits here. Is firstly, you monitor the patient more, you can see deterioration quickly, you see real-time alerts. Secondly, who wants to be in hospital?
Well, exactly. The breeding ground for infection.
And thirdly, we have clinical evidence that actually recover quicker at home, more active at home. And then if you really get down to into where this makes a big factor is, if you look as an example in the UK, an NHS hospital bed is around about £500 a day. Okay, and this is just the overhead. Sitting in bed, £500 a day.
Wow.
Okay, and so this is before any procedures or whatever. So this is the hospital bed, the nurses being fed, the hospital care. What happens? You don't have enough beds. You see these stories where people are queued up in stretchers in the hallway. What if you could release that bed, send somebody home, give them potentially better care for say £12 a day?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you get a bed, you say, you know, you only need a certain amount of patients, and you're talking big savings. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Phenomenal.
this is the concept around virtual wards, hospital at home.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's a very helpful explanation, Simon. Thank you for that. And the
Yeah.
obviously,
Sorry, I just have a Barry. I guess we have a quick example, especially
please.
with a lot of work in the Netherlands. Netherlands is a country for us. So in the Netherlands, they will have patients in for major surgery, say removal of a cancerous tumor of the esophagus. Okay. And the standard stay for that sort of surgery is about 17 days. Right now across the Netherlands is you'll have the surgery, day 5, they'll apply the patch in hospital. And then on day 7, they send you home. So 10 days early. Okay.
So that's saving over half of that hospital overhead that you referred to earlier.
And the patients, you know, on clinical study are improving quicker. There's less readmissions. Readmissions is the biggest hidden cost because surgeons and doctors don't want to see you. But a lot again, you know,
I mean, Simon, this is absolutely phenomenal. What are the challenges for the business? Because it sounds, it doesn't sound too good to be true, because we know this is evidence-based, but it sounds too good to be true in terms of, you know, you knock on any hospital door nationwide or worldwide and you say to the finance director, do you want us to be spending £500 a day, or do you want to be spending £12 a day? And in other words, you know, what are the barriers to your business, and what are some of your challenges you could share with our viewers?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at the countries, some countries are you know, very quick and see it. Yeah. Other countries, and you know, I include the UK in here, the NHS. You know, the NHS is what, the world's largest healthcare organization, 4th largest corporate, you know, in the world, behind the Chinese Red Army. So some of the challenges is connection and getting somebody to make a decision. Okay?
I understand. Yeah.
The next challenge you have is, okay, I get this, but you know, we're really busy. Who's going to monitor somebody 24/7? Yeah. And we have all this data. What are we going to do with all this data? You know, we have 2 data points a day, and now you want to give me 30,000 data points a day. You know, so
that's an extremely fair response, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, what is your response to that?
So our response is we work either with healthcare providers in different countries. We have prime distributors. We're also moving towards a provision of having a 24/7 help desk and say, look, we appreciate you don't have this structure, but actually we can provide this structure for you. You know, we will have people looking, monitoring for alarms. So if your heart rate's too high, you know, we'll have trained people who can look at monitoring, and wherever necessary, we will let you know what you need to know. Yeah, you tell us. So this becomes, you know, once they get this, they go, okay, this, you know, we're not going to be overburdened. You know, we're gonna, you're gonna have somebody. We don't have a team of people who can sit in the room 24/7, but if you can provide that, so it's all around, you know, providing a service, providing the technology to enable the efficiencies. Barry.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, very, very interesting. So in a way, there's as much of a service proposition as there is a hardware proposition, if not more so.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. It's if I look back, we started in 2015. I spent the first 5 years trying to educate the world about medical wearable technologies. And this is important, FDA CE Class 2A. There's a lot of consumer technologies out there, you know, for if you're fit and healthy, wellness. But currently there is a difference between a wellness technology and actually looking after somebody who's could be quite poorly. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's a very, very important point. Would you mind just briefly elaborating on that? So we have wellness at one end of the spectrum, and at the opposite end of the spectrum, what do you want to call it? Evidence-based.
At the other end, you have a technology that you would use in hospital. Yeah, and I always say, you know, okay, you know, would you run a life support machine on your Samsung or Apple phone, or would you, you know? or you're going to, it's got to be certified for medical use, means it's a piece of equipment that can be used in a hospital. Yeah. So currently, and they are merging. Okay, they are merging. But, you know, a wellness device, say, you know, a wristband or, you know, a smartwatch. If you're fit and healthy, you want to check your steps every day, maybe check your HRV, heart rate variability, you know, maybe, you know, on like, for example, Apple can detect at a very high level some arrhythmia, but it's only 30 seconds. Then, you know, just looking after yourself, then yeah, the consumer wearable technology is good. There's a plethora. There are good and bad. Okay, when you've got accuracy on consumer, some can be as low as like 50% accurate. Yeah, you know, and then you may be up to 80%, or in certain cases, actually medically accurate, but on small 10-second sections. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas a medical certified class 2A device can be used in hospital. We're monitoring every second, every millisecond for 7 days.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can you can make awareness, and therefore some clinical decisions could be taken on that data collected.
Yes.
And more importantly, because it's continuous, you can see if a patient's deteriorating. You can see their heart rate, respiration deteriorating, and so you get into the realms, Barry, of I was saying you become a preventative and not a reactive technology. So if you know something sooner, you can react faster and we can resolve quicker.
Exactly. And that's the necessary goal for healthcare, isn't it? In other words, everybody understands, although we call it healthcare, the current structure in almost every country is sick care, isn't it?
Yeah, reactive.
Yeah, doctor until you are unwell. You don't phone the ambulance until you have a problem. You only go in hospital if there is already a problem. And that's not financially sustainable for any culture, is it?
No.
More and more hospitals to look after more and more aging and obese people and things like this. So there's an absolute requirement to move towards proactive instead of reactive, and to address people as early as possible. And that's exactly the space that you guys are in, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's, what pleases me the most is the examples, especially during COVID. We've actually it saves lives. We had a guy in South Africa. They rang him up at 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, look, you're dying," and the ambulance is outside. And he goes, "Well, I was going to wait until the morning, give the doctor." And go, "No, if you don't come now, you won't be there in the morning." Yeah. We did a study with in America, a famous hospital over there, where we used the data for bowel flare-up, irritable bowel syndrome, and we published that where the data could predict a flare-up of the bowel 5 days before it actually happened. So it's like amazing stuff.
No, that's profound. That prediction capability is absolutely profound. So, Simon, what are examples of what you guys are doing currently? What are some of your commercial priorities and goals for this year?
I always find it quite weird. As I said earlier, I spent 5 years trying to tell the world that wearable technologies. Then we had this thing called a pandemic.
Yes.
And then weirdly, everybody woke up around the world and said, yeah, I get it now. I said, well, I've been trying to tell you.
Yes.
So that was weirdly a game changer in wearable technologies and virtual wards.
Okay.
What we're seeing around the world right now is very much getting people out of hospital, monitoring at home, hospital at home. The doctor or nurse rings you twice a day instead of you being in hospital and says, how are you doing? And I can see, we're going to do this. So that's one of the key areas. The other key area we're seeing is around the change in ECG monitoring.
Okay.
So traditionally, if the listeners understand this, some will, some not, is if you have if your doctor or cardiologist feels you have an issue, they'll invite you in. They'll strap a big brick to your to your belt and put wires all over you and say, right, go away for 2 days or 7 days, come back, we'll take it off, we'll download the data, and hopefully maybe 2 days down, maybe 2 weeks later, I will have a report.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. With wearable technology and our technology, we can send the patch out. You can stick this on yourself.
Yes.
Any age. As soon as you do it, we're monitoring in real time for 24/7 for 7 days. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's no data download. Yeah. At any time we can create a full cardiologist report, medically report, and we use AI and give all the tools. So yeah, there's no waiting, coming in for outpatients, going away, getting it, waiting, download. Hopefully you're still okay by the time the report comes. We've had many cases where, a patient will put this on, or actually we've had cardiologists test out, to see how it is. And weirdly, we've rang them up like the next day and say, hey, yeah, it's working really well, but did you know you had an underlying heart arrhythmia that you should actually go and see your doctor yourself?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
this makes such a enormous difference.
Yeah. So so the challenges there for us is, this is real time. We monitor ECG 75 million times a week.
Understood. Yeah. Yes. Where are you getting the most popular, if you will, response for the product?
Yeah, America. Yeah, America's huge, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some key countries. We're certainly doing this in the UK and in Europe. We're working with probably the world's leading cardiologist hospital in Italy, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, Mexico is ironically very big for this. Yeah. You were doing some work in South Africa. Yeah. So it's growing.
It's so gratifying. Of course, the pandemic was a horrible tragedy and disaster for millions, but it's gratifying that as a consequence of that, this core theme that you had been talking about for years ahead of time, the value of wearables, the value of remote patient monitoring and that type of thing is now being fully recognized. So absolutely superb. Simon, this has been so incredibly informative, and what a impressive journey you guys have been so far. I'd like to ask you a little bit more about your activities in the UK. So, for example, you mentioned that you have engagement with various NHS organizations. What would be targets that you want to continue selling to, or what would be examples of organizations in UK healthcare that you guys are quite ambitious to do business with, where there's a strong business case?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, thank you, Barry. So, start this off. I have this saying, which I say quite often. In the UK, it's probably one of the hardest markets in the world because of the size and the complexity of, let's call it, the NHS.
Yes, of course.
And the other thing about the UK is, we're actually one of the leaders in innovation for the world.
Nice.
But we're actually one of the worst adopters in the world as well. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So it always puts a smile. But we certainly recently, again, back to virtual wards. We've recently launched in a couple of NHS trusts in the UK. Virtual wards.
Superb. Nice accomplishment.
And it's quite ironic that we look to work with, there's different wide area of the NHS. Okay, and we're certainly seeing interest, and currently, although it's one or two trusts we're working with, already we're seeing the impact of, okay, we'll be interested after somebody tries it first, and now somebody's tried it first, we're getting a huge interest from other areas.
Excellent.
But we're still, for example,
who else would you guys like to hear from, or who else are you keen to engage with in the UK, other than, for example, hospital trusts?
Yeah, so it's the commissioning groups, the community groups. Obviously, we're very much into research as well.
Nice.
So anybody who is, involved in, delivering or making a decision of how wearable technology can help in the community or keep people out of hospitals.
Yes.
Then we just want to hear from them, because we have, our solution as the head of NHS in Cumbria recently said, this is the first real technology that actually delivers, the bigger vision, 10 vital signs, real-time monitoring and alerting.
Yes.
I do get a smile on my face sometimes when we see announcements of, we've launched remote patient monitoring, virtual wards, and you go, okay, this is good. And it's Barry, is okay. So what does that look like? Okay, well, we've sent out some pulse oximeters to put on somebody's phone. They make a phone call twice a day and say, this is my reading. Yeah. It's not, you may have ticked the box that somebody's at home.
Yeah.
But, we're doing 10, 12 vital signs in real time. And it's a big difference from making a phone call twice a day.
So that's a great example. Hey, well, look, Simon, this has been such an interesting conversation, and I think what you guys are doing is clearly an important, valuable contribution for healthcare. We know that healthcare currently is more reactive sick care. We know that hospitals were invented to treat, for example, acute episodic conditions 100 years ago, and that's just not the way the world is going or what the biggest requirement is. So congratulations, obviously, Simon, to you and to the entire team at MediBioSense on what you guys have accomplished. Once again, we'd also like to thank you for your sponsorship and support of Giant Health last year. Very, very ambitious to invite you to come back this year, and hope that all of our visitors and the greater Giant Health community can engage with you. Just one final question, which is, do you have any particular request to the community? We do have people dialing in and viewing these episodes from across the UK and around the world. Any particular asks? Are you looking for investors, or are you recruiting, or anything in particular?
For a small company, we've certainly seen a step change over the last couple of years. But listen, we're here. MediBioSense is all around, the altruistic view of making a difference in healthcare. Yeah, obviously we're a business, but actually that's second to actually making an impact. And we're working with wider countries and some more secluded countries. And so, if our technology can make a difference, whether this is research, we do big research around the world, as well as day-to-day stuff. Is just to reach out. We're more than happy to speak to anybody. We can share what we're doing, because we're here to make a difference.
Excellent, absolutely superb. Thank you. Honestly, Simon, that's really, really meaningful, and we appreciate that. What's your website address?
Yes, so it's www.medibiosense.com.
So MediBioSense, SENSE.com.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, Simon, so good to see you. And we really appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy and you're accomplishing a lot of important things. So thank you for making the time available. And on behalf of everybody at Giant Health, we appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for allowing this to happen.
Excellent. So once again, this has been this week's episode of Giant's Healthy Innovators TV. We've been proud to introduce you and to talk to Simon Beniston, CEO of MediBioSense. And we'd also like to thank some of our other sponsors. So thanks once again to Vodafone Business. Thank you to our knowledge partner, McKinsey. We love working with all of our sponsors and exhibitors. We're really grateful for Simon and his team participating in Giant Health last year. To have the MediBioSense team at Giant last year really added a lot of value to the event. And we know there was a lot of interest. So certainly hoping that a lot of our listeners and viewers from around the world can come to the Giant Health event this year. Once again, we invite all of our viewers to visit our website. That's www.giant.health. This year, our big annual Festival of Healthcare Innovation is on the 4th and 5th of December in London, England. Hope to see you there. Thank you very much.